What's up? I'm Bea and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be taking a look at some of Brittany Dawn's most recent Instagram reels and just going over them a little bit. I have made plenty of videos on Brittany Dawn before, so I'm not going to go into a ton of who she is, her history, what she's being sued for, although please note if you've not seen those videos, she is being sued by the state of Texas essentially for deceptive business practices and like promising a product without actually following through on it. It's a lot of charges, it's a lot of accusations, but they're set to go to trial in March of 2023. However, in the meantime, I want to make sure that we kind of keep Brittany on our radar. We don't let people lose public interest in the case because I think it is important that she is brought to justice. And you know, I never want to make it feel like I'm targeting one specific person on my channel, so I don't address everything that she does, but every few weeks, I think it's good to kind of revisit what's going on because I think her presence on the internet is more harmful than it is helpful, and I'm going to call it out. Now, one of the reels that is not going to be included in this is her Roe v. Wade celebratory reel. At this point, I don't have anything constructive or helpful to say about that reel, and anything that I say about it will come from anger. I posted it to my story and basically just said, like, to celebrate such a tragic blow to human rights is really devastating, and, you know, just made a few comments about it on there. But Brittany Dawn was excited that Roe v. Wade got overturned. I am not excited that Roe v. Wade got overturned, and I'm still pretty pissed. So I'm not going to include that, but just know she posted a reel celebrating it, and I don't have anything constructive to say about it at this time, so we will be moving on. Actually, you know what? Let me take it back. I'm not going to play her reel because it will make me very angry, but I just want to speak to Christians who might be watching this who are feeling like there was victory in that decision. A few things to consider. First and foremost, yes, while it seems that a lot of the nation's shared values might be Christian values, we do not have an official religion in the United States of America, and we should be thankful that that is the case because we have the freedom to choose whether to practice any religion at all, and if we want to practice a religion, what religion that is going to be. Can you imagine if there was a national religion that didn't align with you and you were forced to abide by laws and regulations that you didn't personally agree with? That would not be fun. You can't just sit here and be like, well, I'm a Christian, so I believe that everybody should adhere to my values. That is not okay. We cannot do that. We would not like that if somebody from a different religion did that to us. And so, wow, you can say, I don't like abortion. I would never have an abortion. That is not a choice that I would make. It does not give you the right to take away that freedom from somebody else. And you should not be celebrating the loss of reproductive rights and freedoms. People have the right to safe and accessible health care. You don't know what's going to happen from overturning this law. You don't know what tragedy can come from this. And even if you are pro-life and you say, I would never have an abortion, I don't want to have one, yay. Why are you celebrating that when you know that it is devastating for so many other people? As a Christian, you should care that there are people in your community who are scared, who are sad, who are disappointed, who are in pain because of this decision, and you should walk with them in that pain. You should not be celebrating something that put them in that pain. You can have your own opinion for yourself and your own life and your own choices, but to celebrate something that is so harmful and regressive, I don't think it reflects the values that we are supposed to have. We're supposed to be empathetic and understanding and care about other people, and that includes people that you disagree with. Got worked up for a little bit. We're calmed down now. Let's get worked up again by watching Brittany Dawn's Instagram reels.
We are living in crazy times as Christians. I mean, really stop for a moment and look around at everything going on in the world. And then I see stuff like this and this. In case you're missing it, she's laying on a cross. The outfit, title, and aesthetic is straight up demonic. And then Kendrick Lamar, if you missed this, he wore a crown of thorns on the stage and portrayed himself as Jesus. This literally makes me sick. Satan isn't even trying to hide anymore. Have you ever noticed how the music industry doesn't ever try to make fun of Buddha, Muhammad, or other false gods? It's because the demons behind this demonic agenda know. They know that Jesus is king. They know that he's returning with fire in his eyes, that he's returning for his bride. And whether you choose to believe it or not, there is a demonic agenda behind secular music. I'm not saying all, but these two artists in particular, Christians, now is the time to guard your ears, protect fiercely what you're consuming, and hold the line for the kingdom.
Britney has a constant persecution complex. Like, the devil is always out to get her, and she needs to take that. Like, she has this feeling of constantly being chased, and she pushes it onto other Christians. And that's not like a new thing. It's not Brittany Dawn specific. There are a lot of spiritual leaders who use this tactic, this fear tactic, to encourage you to consume less content from other people and more content from them. So this happens quite a bit. As far as Demi Lovato goes, their album hasn't come out yet, so I don't love that they're on a crucifix and the title is Holy F. Like, I don't know what the content is going to be. I know she's released one song called Skin of My Teeth, and that's about addiction, and I thought it was really good. Like, I listened to it, and I thought that it was really powerful and kind of heartfelt. So I'm trying not to judge something too quickly when I don't really know that much about it. My mom and I had this conversation, not about Demi, but about how she's reading this book about becoming unoffendable. And it's because, like, the author's saying people are so quick to get offended. They're so quick to get their feelings hurt and be outraged. And what would it look like if we just didn't let that happen? What if we changed our perspective so that we weren't offended and we didn't act out in these ways based on this emotion? How much better could things be? And I think that that's a really important concept to just kind of chew on, throw it around, see how you feel about it, see if you find yourself being really upset and feeling really offended or like personally targeted by things that might not have been done or said to specifically target you. And even if they were, how powerful would it be if you didn't let those things impact you? So I'm gonna wait and see about this Demi album. I really don't know enough about it to say much other than that. And then as far as Kendrick Lamar goes, yes, he was wearing a crown of thorns. If you are a Christian and you believe in Jesus and that he was crucified, you know that he wore a crown of thorns on his head. Well, it was placed on his head in order to kind of mock him and say, oh, look, here he is, the King of the Jews. And so it's very symbolic and very important to Christians. However, on the stage at Glastonbury, Kendrick Lamar said, quote, I wear this, the crown, as a representation so you'll never forget one of the greatest prophets to ever walk the earth. We're going to continue to try our best to walk in his image, end quote. So he's using it as symbolism of what we should strive to be, not saying, look at me, I'm Jesus. I don't know. Did Britney see this quote? Did she not? Did she just see a picture and decide what his intent was in wearing it? Is she the one who's jumping too quickly to be offended by something? Somebody's saying that, like, I'm wearing this so we all remember Jesus and we all remember to walk in his image. That makes her sick. Something to think about, Brit. And then finally, the whole talking about, why don't people ever mock false gods like Buddha and Muhammad? I'm not an expert in other spiritual beliefs or religions or anything like that, nor would I ever claim to be. However, I have a bachelor's of interdisciplinary studies in humanities, and my senior capstone class was regarding various religions of the world. And so, that was back in 2016. Maybe I don't remember everything, but I've read a good bit of religious text from other religions, from other countries. I've, learned a lot about those things. And from what I remember, again, could be wrong, not saying that I'm right about everything, but I did take a pretty extensive class on it. Muhammad, if she is referring to the prophet who is referred to as a prophet who, according to Islamic beliefs, was sent to revive the religion of Islam. It's not, if I'm remembering correctly, it's not believed that he created Islam. It's that they believe Jesus predicted Muhammad coming to revive it. Plus, Islam is a monotheistic Abrahamic religion, and so Abrahamic religions basically are religions that believe in the God of Abraham. And so, what are the three Abrahamic religions? Islam, Judaism, Christianity. We are obviously, all three of these religions are obviously very different. So I'm not saying that as a Christian, I'm the same as a Muslim, because that's just not true. But Muslims believe in the Abrahamic God, which is the same God as Christians, and perceive Muhammad to be a prophet, not God. And then as far as Buddha goes, assuming she's referring to the founder of Buddhism, like the original Buddha, Siddhartha, who, again, was not a god. He was considered an enlightened being and a spiritual teacher. And I'm not even sure, because I've obviously read about this and I've looked into it even after I graduated and stuff like that, and I'm still not sure if Buddhism is a theistic religion or an atheistic religion. From what I understand, Buddha had issues with some of the religious leaders at the time not following like the guidelines and the values that they should have had in being people of the divine, like being people who were representing the divine essence, basically. And so I think he kind of avoided talking about gods in that time, because it wasn't about that for him. It was about making sure that you are working on yourself, that you're doing meditation, that you're doing good deeds, that you're doing mental and spiritual labor, and you're focusing on those things so that way you yourself can improve and make your way into enlightenment as well. And so again, maybe I've missed something because I am not a world religion expert, but I personally haven't seen people saying that Buddha was God. More so, he was an enlightened being and a spiritual leader and somebody who you could learn a lot from, not like an omnipresent, omnipotent, eternal God who's like looking over you and looking after you, right? So that's just my understanding of it, but it really rubs me the wrong way when Brittany Dawn just like throws out these flippant comments of like, oh, it's like a false god like Buddha and Muhammad, when traditionally and generally they're not regarded as God or as gods. It just comes off as like xenophobic to me, and like you don't really know a lot about the things that you're criticizing because you're being so flippant about it and you're wrong. So this whole reel, it just seems like her trying to tear down other religions because they don't align with what she believes, even though she doesn't appear to know a lot about them, and then also placing that fear into people who watch her, so that way they will like turn away from secular music and secular influences and focus more on her and give her more, engagement and power over their lives. Because if she's a bigger presence in their lives, then obviously she grows, she makes more money, she can get more people to attend her events and like pay for anything she might put out in the future. That's just how I see it. Next reel. So let's go through these one by one. The first one is no messaging the opposite sex one-on-one, and if you have to, tell your spouse about it. We're not off to a great start, because this sounds like you just don't trust your partner to text somebody of the opposite sex. You're not allowed to have friends. If you're in a heterosexual relationship and you're a woman, you're not allowed to have guy friends, and he's not allowed to have friends who are girls. Why? Like, why are you so concerned about controlling that aspect of the relationship? Why would you not let them have friends? Probably because you don't trust that they would just be friends. Same with the next one. No riding in the car alone with the opposite sex. No alone time with the opposite sex in general. again, why? Like, what if they're really your good friend and all of a sudden you get married and you're like, oh, well, I'm married now, so I can't text you anymore. Please go through my husband. That's so controlling and so weird. And it just, to me, it fosters an environment of constantly feeling like you need to check up on your spouse to make sure they're following that rule, that they're not engaging or initiating friendships with other people other than those of their same sex. It's weird. And honestly, if you've had an incident where your spouse has, started a friendship with somebody and everything was great and y'all thought they were just friends, and then something did happen, and so because of that, they came to you and they were honest and they asked for your forgiveness and wanted to make sure that like they could work on becoming better and you guys could build your relationship back up, and you need to put these guardrails in place at least for a certain time, or maybe like a lighter version of these guardrails. I can understand that in a specific situation while you're strengthening your relationship and while they're figuring out like, what was it about me? Like, what was my weakness that I fell into that temptation? Like, I understand doing that. But just as a general, this is what every Christian couple should do. I don't think it makes sense. The next one is decent. Always notify each other about purchases over $200. I think you can kind of tailor that to your budget depending on what it is. That's a rule that my husband and I have in place, where it's just like, day-to-day stuff, buy whatever you need. But if we're going to be making a bigger purchase, we always make sure we go over it with the other person, just because y'all have a budget. And so you want to make sure that you're both aligned with it. Although it makes me think of Brittany Dawn's reel where she was like, my husband's home and the Amazon delivery driver is coming. Where can I hide the packages? Which some people thought I was taking too seriously, but if you watch that video, I gave a valid reason why it was concerning to me. Next one is good. When we disagree, we validate how the other is feeling, despite if they're wrong or not. That one I agree with. If your partner's upset about something, even if it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, or even if you think they're wrong and you're right, it's good to feel validated. It's good to listen and be collaborative rather than combative. So I like that one. Next, we don't make decisions without each other, always keeping our marriage at the forefront of everything. That seems a little bit broad. I'm not sure like what she means by we don't make decisions without each other. If she's referring to like running to Starbucks, she has to check with Jordan to make sure it's okay, or what. I don't know. I think with big decisions, obviously you do that. Or like if you get invited to go do something by a friend where it's like, oh, hey, this person invited me to do this thing on Saturday. Do you mind if I go? Was there anything that you wanted to do that day? Just, keeping each other in mind as teammates. Although my husband and I do that, like we'll check with each other and neither one of us has ever said no. I feel like it's just a common courtesy thing of being like, oh, hey, like I might be going to do this thing. Just want to give you a heads up and respect you as my partner. But if I'm going to run to Target and get a new bathing suit, I'm not going to run that by my spouse, because that's not like, I feel like if you do that, then it's very controlling. Even if it's just as a courtesy to let them know, it feels like you're being tracked. And again, it feels like you're not being trusted. This one I agree with. We don't entertain conversations that dishonor our spouse in any way. Absolutely. Don't engage in that. Like, nope. It's like when people make fun of their spouse or their partner, or they like complain about them in a large group setting. I feel like that's disrespectful, even if it's just like them venting. Still, there's a time and a place for it, because that is your teammate. Like that is your partner. That is the person that you are sharing your life with. And so, if you're having a fight or you need advice from somebody, like you're having a disagreement and you're really struggling with something, I think you can go to somebody who you know and trust and who knows the both of you and cares about both of you, and just seek their advice. But that's not dishonoring your spouse. That's trying to help find a way to resolve the situation. So those are different things. But yeah, engaging in conversations that dishonor the spouse, no go. And finally, I have one last reel for y'all. I want you to look at the imagery that she's using and the words that go along with it, because I feel like you're gonna notice a disconnect.
I want to be a girl boss, boss babe, or self-made queen. I want to be a hand-picked, set apart, modern-day Esther, a daughter of the king. I don't want to place my hope in the fickle ways of this world, hustling to climb a ladder that leads nowhere fast. I want the boldness in my voice to make all of hell shake, and those around me to the foot of the cross. I want to recognize my calling, operate in my gifts, and walk unapologetically for the kingdom. I want to be a woman of God who knows her confidence comes from Him alone. Because when a woman of God is placed with this position to live out His mission, she will know that she was born for a time such as this.
I'm not going to go through clip by clip and point out where the clips that she used didn't really align with the words on the screen, because it was the majority of them. But she talks about, I want to take care of my body for the temple that it is. And instead of showing her doing like fun things or eating healthy, like making good meals, it's her in the gym when she's talked so heavily about how much her body image used to be an issue for her and how hard she used to work to have the perfect body and how damaging that was for her. So, that one really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then there's a clip of like Jordan grabbing her butt when she's talking about how she wants to be a daughter of the king and lead people to the foot of the cross. Why does that clip need to be in there? It doesn't fit. And finally, where she talks about how she doesn't want to be a girl boss or a boss babe, when that's literally what she is. Like, that's basically her whole internet presence, is her promoting her own company that she created. Although maybe she doesn't think it counts because it's a nonprofit and it's for religious purposes. Maybe she doesn't think it counts, but I think that it counts. And then one more thing, that I said last thing about the last one, but now this really is the last thing. She says that she wants to be a modern day Esther. Will the real Amanda Ensing please stand up? There are a lot of really powerful, impressive women in the Bible, and so it just seems interesting that she picked Esther, that she wants to be a modern day Esther. If you don't know the story, basically there was a king who was displeased with his wife, and so he was like, bye, you gone. And he tells all of the people who work for him to go find some beautiful virgins to bring to the palace for these beauty treatments. And like, it's gonna last a year where they're gonna be just pampered and groomed, and they're going to have to present themselves to the king to see who he would like to take on as his new wife. There's a young girl named Esther who happens to be Jewish, and she was orphaned. She was taken on by her cousin. Her cousin Mordecai says, hey, don't let them know that you are Jewish. Please, hide it if you want to survive this. If you don't want to end up as a concubine for the king, just keep it hidden. So she does. She finds favor with the king. The king trusts her. She lives with integrity. And so they develop kind of this good relationship. And then somehow a plot is uncovered that one of the king's advisors is planning to slaughter the lot of the Jewish people in the kingdom that they are in. And so Mordecai tells Esther about it. He's like, hey, please go to the king and out this plot so that way it can be prevented. Like, reveal who you are, reveal who your people are, and encourage him not to do this. But if the king doesn't summon Esther and she just shows up, she's at risk of being put to death. But she says, well, I'll do this, and if I die, I die. So she goes to the king. She asks to invite him to a dinner party, and then over the next few days, she regains favor with him because he'd been calling her to his room less and less. And so that's another element of why she was nervous about it. But for the next few days, she regains his favor. She reveals who she is and asks him to stop this plot and spare her people. So the king kills the advisor who devised this plan and gives Mordecai the right to issue a decree to the Jewish people that there might be a fight happening. The plan was already kind of set in motion, but you are allowed to fight back to anybody of any nationality who might come up against you. And so the Jews get this. They fight back. They're aware of the attack coming, and they fight. They're victorious. And Mordecai becomes advisor to the king. So happy ending, great. But think about, I know I said that very casually, it's just kind of a quick recap, but think about the implication of saying, I want to be a modern day Esther. And kind of in that way equating yourself to her, putting yourself on that same level. And maybe Brittany Dawn, because of her persecution complex, because she thinks that every horrible thing she's done, the consequences that she's faced for those things were, you know, they were God testing her and putting her in a position to prepare for such a time as this. Maybe she really does think that, but I just think it's incredibly disrespectful to compare yourself like that. And maybe that's not what she was meaning to do, but when I hear it, it's off-putting to me because I'm like, this woman went through so much. She risked her life to save her cousin and her people, even though she might be put to death. Like, even though she knew the consequences of speaking out and revealing who she was and who her family was, and she still chose to do it anyway to try and save her family. So to me, I just don't think they're on like the same playing field, but as always, that's just my opinion. But that was the last reel I wanted to share with you guys, and I'm interested to hear what you think of them down below. Do you think that any of them were out of line, or do you understand why she would post them? Do you agree with them? I have noticed that a lot of my previous videos regarding Brittany Dawn have been getting some increased engagement lately, and I think it's from people who like her and support her, because the comments that I'm seeing are not necessarily agreeing with me. They're more so defending Brittany. And so if you want to defend her, if you support her and you want to share your opinion, definitely feel free to do so. I'm always open to listen, even though I might not agree with you and you might not agree with me. As long as we're all respectful and we're not taking like low blows or saying anything unnecessarily cruel or bigoted, because I don't like that. But if we disagree, totally fine. So while you are leaving your comments down below, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, that would be incredible. And if you're subscribed already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you, and I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. Thank you so much for watching. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.